2.9. Sanjay said, by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sanjay said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not find, and fell silent. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Dhritarashtra must have been very glad to understand that Arjuna was not going to fight and was instead leaving the battlefield for the begging profession. But Sanjaya disappointed him again in relating that Arjuna was competent to kill his enemies, Parantapa. Although Arjuna was for the time being overwhelmed with false grief due to family affection, he surrendered unto Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, as a disciple. This indicated that he would soon be free from the false lamentation resulting from family affection and would be enlightened with perfect knowledge of self-realization or Krishna consciousness and would then surely fight. Thus, Dhritarashtra's joy would be frustrated. Hence, Arjuna would be enlightened by Krishna and would fight to the end. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttapada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathatam Jivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhavitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpataruvasya Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivash Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to cleanse myself and also giving me a listen to this very powerful verse, Bhagavad Gita 2.9. Here Sanjay is speaking here, and Sanjay, as you may have heard, have got the Divya Drushti from Vyasadeva, because of which he is able to, broadcast or telecast or webcast, as you may say, the happenings in the battle of Kurukshetra. So he is able to see because he got the Divya Drushti, and here he is explaining in this verse, he is explaining what is happening in the battle of Kurukshetra to Maharaj Dhritarashtra. And there, this verse talks about a very simple thing, that having spoken thus, Arjuna, the chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. So as you can see in this verse, there is this word ukta used twice. So ukta means speaking, right? So here Arjuna spoke to Govinda or Krishna, Sanjay is saying, and then he sat down and he said, I said this. So there is references to saying twice. So those are some points we're going to touch upon. And the second thing, Sanjay is explaining to Dhritarashtra about the telecast of the activity by referring to Krishna as Hrishikesa and referring to Arjuna as Gudakesa, and referring to Krishna again, Arjuna telling Krishna as Govindam. So those are some of the interactions which has happened between Arjuna and Krishna, which is being relayed by Sanjay to Dhritarashtra. And in the past verse, Arjuna is saying that even if I get the heavenly planet, I will not trade the heavenly planet of the Swarga or heaven with, killing and taking over Hastinapur. So we must recognize that Arjuna is a very powerful person, and Arjuna has fought with Shiva, who is from a higher planetary system than the Swargaloka. So for him, going Swarga is nothing. If you think about it, the place of Indra is nothing for Arjuna. Arjuna is slated for higher things, and so here Arjuna is referred to while he is speaking. This emphasis on speaking is there. So when you are trying to speak and then close the conversation, then you are basically making yourself ready to listen. So here Arjuna spoke, and then Arjuna became silent after speaking. So there is two touch points on the speaking part of it. That's why there is this ukta being referred here twice. And then Sanjay is referring to these two personalities as Parantapa. What is Parantapa? Parantapa are the personalities who chastise the enemy. I mean, they go to any extent. They're so powerful, they can go to any extent in meeting with the enemies. So here, when Dhritarashtra heard that Arjuna is saying, I'm not going to fight, then Dhritarashtra is feeling happy. He's feeling happy that my son Duryodhana is going to be king. So he's dreaming. But at the same time, Sanjay ji is saying, you are basically talking about the chastiser of these enemies, the people who are fearful in this place where there are, millions of people who have congregated to hear, to basically see Arjuna in action. They are seeing, and Arjuna has left and he has sat down to hear from Krishna. So everybody knows that Arjuna is very, very powerful. And Arjuna is being referred later in chapter 11 by Krishna that, whether you want to kill these people or not, it doesn't matter. I have already got them destroyed. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. So these personalities, right? Like say, for example, if Arjuna is, if you think about it, it's like a petrol. And the petrol is ready to catch fire. You just need that little matchbox at the right time to, illuminate everything and destroy everything. So when Sanjay is telling information about what is happening, he's saying this Arjuna is a powerhouse. You just need the right frame of mind to massacre everything. So don't dream. And so because Krishna, towards the later part in chapter 11, he's saying, whether you kill these people or not, because there has been tremendous disregard for dharma and a lot of bad things have happened, I'll kill these people anyway. It's just a matter of you lifting your Gandiv and fighting to do your duty as a Kshatriya. So these guys, these people who are accumulated here have been already killed. So this Parantapa, the chastiser of enemies, these two powerhouses in terms of to what degree they could go and fight, is being referred. So when Sanjay is saying, referring to these personalities as Parantapa, he's trading an element of fear in the minds of Dhritarashtra. He's saying just because Arjuna has sat down doesn't mean that Krishna is not going to ignite this powerhouse of petrol and he can really massacre everything. So Parantapa after Ukta is very critical. So then he's also referring to Krishna in this verse as Hrishikesam. So what is Hrishikesam? Hrishikesam is someone who is the Swami of senses. We have these 5 senses, right? And those 5 senses are not enough because these 5 senses are controlled by our mind and intelligence is controlling the mind. So it is referred in Upanishads that whenever you have these 5 horses which are basically driving us forward. And these horses are essentially can go in any direction. Whenever they see grass in the side, they can go in any direction because their senses are not controlled. In order to control them, you have this rope which is being tied, and that rope is nothing but the mind which is trying to control. But still, mind cannot be controlled. Today, mind can be in Vrindavan because Purushottamas is there. Tomorrow it can be in Jagannath Puri. Day after tomorrow it can be Mayapur. So the mind can wander in a fraction of a second everywhere. So, but in order to control the mind, you have the charioteer or the sarathi who is using the intelligence. So you have these horses, which are the senses, the rope which is tying them together is the mind, and then the sarathi who is, is the intelligence, and the person who is sitting in this chariot is the soul. So there is this Hrishikesh, the person who is controlling the senses. You are dealing with that person here. Sanjay is telling to Dhritarashtra, and it's very apt to hear that even if you do not have the sense of sight, Dhritarashtra, because even you did not even get the Divya Drishti to see the commentary. That's why you're hearing. That's why I'm going to any extent. Sanjay is saying, I'm going to any extent in explaining. Okay, he got up, he lifted the Gandhi, but you do not have the sight. And Krishna, in this personification of his appearance in this age, in this Dwapar Yuga, he came as a person. He doesn't come in any ages. He comes in person, and he's referring to Dhritarashtra in that light, that you are so unfortunate that in this age, in this Yuga, when Krishna appeared, you cannot even see him. So that's why the senses, with references to Dhritarashtra, is very critical. Of the five senses, sight, sense of sight, everything starts with seeing, and you do not even have that. And that's why people say, and our acharyas say, Dhritarashtra is not blind physically, he is blind spiritually. So he's giving that impression. Sanjay ji is giving that, so you might have seen, heard some cricket matches when the cricket matches goes on and you do not have access to TV or webcast. At that time, you will see some of the broadcasters, some of the people who will be running the commentary, they will make those boundaries look as if, you are seeing it right then and there. So there is that element of characterization which Sanjay has put in here to really explain that you are dealing with Hrishikesha, and you are dealing with personalities who are Parantapa, who can really, who can explode anytime, and then you are also dealing with Gudakesha. What is Gudakesha? So when Arjuna was in his Gurukul, he was practicing in the night. He was practicing archery in the night. At the time, there was no light. There was no floodlight to play, like how nowadays everybody plays cricket under the floodlight. In darkness, he used to practice. He used to see, he used to hear birds in this corner, and he would practice to shoot them. So he conquered this sleep, this element of sleep. And here, the reference to Gudakesha is just not sleep. It's our sheer laziness. It's our sheer, lack of knowledge. We are in total dark, and it also refers to Tamogun. So this person has controlled the sleep, and you're dealing with that person. So I just want to tell you that even if he is not fighting, behold your patience, and that is where there is this wonderful pastime of Arjuna. So when the Ashwamedha Yajna happened, Yudhishthira Maharaj told Arjuna to take this horse, and wherever this horse goes and these kingdoms, if they let the horse go, they accept Yudhishthira Maharaj as their emperor, and wherever the horse is captured and there is a fighting, then they do not accept. And if Arjuna wins the fight, then the horse goes forward, and that small kingdom becomes part of Yudhishthira Maharaj. So, and before going, Yudhishthira Maharaj told Arjuna that don't kill anybody. So Arjuna, as you know, he could kill in no time. Actually, he was so powerful. So he goes, and one kingdom after other, they let the horse go. But in one kingdom, there's a king who wanted to protest. And when he protested, the fight war broke out, and Arjuna is not killing because his elder brother has told. So when he's basically, shooting and he's cutting the arrows, but this person, after shooting and shooting and shooting, that person fell asleep. And Arjuna has full control of sleep. He doesn't need to sleep. And after 2-3 days of fight, that person gave up. And because he just couldn't control sleep. And our Arjuna was so powerful that he controlled the sleep to any. So Arjuna in this case is referred as one who has conquered laziness. Our laziness in going to the temple, our laziness to chant, our laziness to read scriptures wherein we want to be in the dark, and this essence of tamogun. And so Sanjay is saying this Gudakes who has conquered sleep, the person who has conquered ignorance, the tamogun, he has sat down. So he's kind of personalizing all these personalities, and then we have and then he uses the word Govinda, and we'll get to that. So here, when we discuss about Govinda, it is very important to understand who Govinda is. And so Prabhupada writes in a very many places, actually Prabhupada has referred this in many places, that in this age of Kali, people do Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. What is Ardha Kukuti Nyaya? So Ardha Kukuti Nyaya means they accept Bhagavad Gita on the principles of Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. In this Nyaya, in the topic, in the logic, there is a logic Ardha Kukuti Nyaya, which is, Kukuti means hen, okay? So there's a hen. So hen gives one egg every day. So the man, proprietor of the hen, he's considering that this hen is very good, giving every day one egg. But the mouth is expensive because he is eating fodder, which is very expensive. So if it eats, it is expensive. But this egg he is giving, he is adding to my revenue. But this fodder he is eating, he is taking away from my revenue. So if I cut the mouth, simply take the egg. So if you cut the mouth, then he won't eat for fodder and he will continue to give eggs. So that's in Bhagavad Gita is actually understood by many people as Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. So cut this, take this. Cut this, take this. They will use Bhagavad Gita's teachings based on their preference, based on how they want to sell something. So if you cut the head, there will be no more egg. The rascals don't know that. Prabhupada is saying, if you cut the head, there will be no more production of egg. So simply, if you try to study Bhagavad Gita according to your whims, cut this, take this. This is not study of Bhagavad Gita. That is something else. This is something that is something else. So, and also you'll find in your day-to-day life, there'll be people who may be referring to Prabhupada at their convenience, what they want to say. So this Ardha Kukuti Nyaya is very prominent when people want to accept Bhagavad Gita. And this Ardha Kukuti Nyaya is very critical for Govinda. Because here Sanjay is referring to Krishna as Govinda, one who gives pleasure to go, which means Bhumi Devi, senses, cows. So, and also Krishna can give the understanding of this Vedavani, this Vedic injunction to Arjuna in the right way, without the Ardha Kukuti Gana. What is the right way? The right way is explained by our scriptures as Sthana, Kala, Patra. That means the place has to be right, the time has to be right, and the subject has to be right. So, Sanjay is saying, Govinda, who gives pleasure to cows, senses, and bhumi, now he is waiting to speak after Arjuna stops speaking. Because here Arjuna has stopped. So he is not bothered about these millions of people who are all looking at him. When you think about, you're in a stadium, say for example, you go in a stadium, you find a very, strong, famous personality, for example, say Sachin Tendulkar, he's sitting. You would think, why is he sitting? Why is he not playing? So likewise, all these millions of people in Battle of Kurukshetra, they're seeing Arjuna who has sat down. He is waiting to hear from his spiritual master, Govinda here. So, and everybody is looking. So, but he is not concerned that others are looking at him. He is just waiting to hear. Sanjay is saying he is just leaving everything. He is mentally, sensually, he is preparing himself to hear from Krishna. So that's the setting we are into. And 2 verses down the line, Krishna is going to smile, and we're going to talk about Krishna's smile in that 30 minutes. But here, the essence is Arjuna has left everything. He's not bothered about these millions of people who are waiting for him to shoot. He has left everything and is waiting for Krishna to speak. And Krishna is going to speak and make this Vedavani understandable without the Ardhakukutina, taking the time, place, and circumstance into account. And that's the setting. So when Arjuna is doing this, right, Arjuna has all the qualities which is explained in the scripture. What are the qualities which are explained in the scriptures? In Bhagavad Gita 4.39, the qualities of the person who attains spiritual knowledge and spiritual peace is explained is Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatpara samyatendriya jnanam labdha param santim achitenandriya dachati. So that means, so these are the 3 qualities, and these are the 3 qualities Arjuna is exhibiting here. Arjuna has left everything. Arjuna has left the Gandiv, and he is waiting. He has complete faith on the Purna Purushottam Krishna. The Purna Purushottam Krishna, where we have in this age, the Purna Purushottam Krishna in different forms as Shyam Sundar, as Jagannath. He has full faith in Krishna in the battlefield to hear, to render his sense of hearing. And he is totally dedicated, tatpara, dedicated to accept transcendental knowledge. And he has already subdued his senses so that he is eligible to achieve such knowledge. So these are the 3 characteristics Arjuna is exhibiting when he is bestowing the fact that he has faith on Krishna. He has left everything. He wants to hear. He wants to hear. So the question becomes, when we hear, is one of these 7 senses we talked about, the 5 material senses and mind and intelligence, enough? Actually not. Because when you have the senses, you need to think. You need to get your mind in perspective. You need to apply intelligence. You need to ask questions. So, and you have to make an attempt to go to the temple to hear. So, the faith on Purna Purushottam Krishna with dedication doesn't mean that you just have to control one sense of hearing. Sometimes when we, try to chant when the class is going on or whenever, so we are not totally focused. So here, if we let all these 7 things, the 5 physical senses and the 2 subtle senses in the service of Krishna, then we are ready to hear. And that is the setting Arjuna is getting into. So he has sat down, he is sharing that he is ready to hear. He has sat down, he is saying, I don't want to fight. He is preparing his mind, intelligence, and the 5 senses to have faith. He is dedicated and he's controlled the senses because what is happening is Arjuna was also talking from the scriptures. In the first verse, in the first chapter, Arjuna was actually quoting from scriptures. Arjuna was giving all the right reasons. The reason of, Varna Sankara. That means if there will be pollution, there will be, problem in the society and all of that. It's actually right from the scriptures. But the sthana, kala, patra is just not right. And the only person who can make us understand about the sthana, kala, patra without the ardha kukuti naya is Govinda. And Govinda is getting ready. 10, 11, 2.10 and 2.11. So there is, Krishna is going to smile and he will start the activity. So till that time, the setting is being done, and Arjuna is waiting to hear. So the question becomes, Arjuna was very qualified, but he did not have all the things lined up properly. He was not applying the knowledge at the right place at the right time. And that is exactly what Krishna is going to explain. That is why this Vedavani, in order to, if Krishna desires to reveal himself, he will reveal to whoever he wants to reveal. So in order to make him reveal himself to us, we have to make the situation conducive, and that is exactly what Arjuna is doing. Arjuna is giving all the arguments. The arguments are done. Now he is calm, he is quiet, and he has sat down, and he's ready to hear the conversation. So that's the essence of this verse, where the broadcast or the telecast or the webcast is of Sanjay explaining the situation to Dhritarashtra, that these personalities have come to this kind of a situation. Hrishikesa is there, controlling senses. The person who's controlling the sleep, he has sat down. Don't think that, the matchbox is not ready to illuminate the petrol, because once Arjuna unravels himself, once Arjuna is convinced about shooting the opponent out, there is no return. So just sit back and understand these principles, Hrishikesha, Gudakesha, Govinda. And just because he is not going to fight doesn't mean Duryodhan has won the war. So take it in that context. And that's where Prabhupada, in his purport, he's saying Dhritarashtra must have been very glad to understand that Arjuna is not going to fight, but instead leaving the battlefield for the begging profession. But Sanjay disappointed him again in relating that Arjuna was competent to kill his enemies. So Parantapo is very, very powerful here. And all these verses are so powerful, but hearing it from Sanjay, from a third person, where this discussion is happening and how he's presenting the case of, so when we take and present Krishna outside, there is a lot to learn from Sanjay as to how he's, shaping Krishna Arjuna interaction and presenting to somebody. So we'll meet neophytes on the road, but we need to take the attribute of Sanjay in our shoes, in our minds and our feelings, and share Krishna consciousness in a very, very positive way, exactly like how Sanjay is doing here. So with that, I think I may have gone a little bit over time. Can I go on for 2-3 more minutes, Prabhuji? Yeah. So just to just to end here. So anytime we talk about this, every person, whenever they're referring to this Krishna consciousness, they read things like Manmana Manbhakto. Then there is Madbhakto. Then they refer to this Mahamantra, which basically, cleanse our hearts. Mantra, jo man ko, clear karta hai, man ko शांति देता है. मंत्र, हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. But this mind, man, is not enough. We need to use all our senses, all our physical senses in Krishna's service. That's the reason why this verse, there will be a lot of people who will say that, okay, what is this, showcasing of tilak on the head, and why this kantimala around the neck? Because we have to showcase that this body, all the senses belong to the Supreme, and we have to use this, all the things we have possessed, all the 5 senses, our mind and intelligence, into Krishna's service. Let's say, for example, by just thinking always about Krishna, sometimes our mind gets distracted, and that is when here the takeaway is to have all our senses, just not mind, in Krishna's service. We have to use all our so hearing is just not one sense we're using all the senses. So to make an attempt to go to temple, hear some niceties which is happening, and applying all the senses in Krishna's service is something which we're going to take away and apply in our lives. And uh, and Sanjay is explaining all these wonderful qualities of the personalities who are involved here. And with that, I'd like to end here. If you have any comments and questions or thoughts, please add. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.